Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So I made a short film called Record Found Here, and it's a film that is inspired by a story that my grandmother told me about 10 years ago. The story is about 10,000 Nigerian women who, in the 1940s, organized strikes and protests against British colonial taxation. And in response to this knowledge, to learning about this new historical movement, I decided to go to Nigeria, and I essentially conducted interviews, oral history interviews with women who had witnessed this particular movement. I also conducted archival research, and I went to the archives and was able to see the papers. I saw some journal entries, some letters, some correspondence, exchanges between the quote protagonist and the antagonist. I noticed the silences of the archives. I felt them. It was very, very pronounced. I was able to touch and taste and smell history. And through that engagement with history, my imagination was awakened, and it was a really, really beautiful historical encounter. And so this film is an ode to the imagination and innovation of grandmothers who unfortunately have been left at the margins and who deserve to be pulled, right to the center. It's also a story that essentially reminds us to consider new ways of examining knowledge. So for instance, my use of oral histories is deliberate, and it's to also ensure that we remember that there's scholarship that exists beyond the ones that we're familiar with. And so often we think of oral histories as unserious or as playful, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I embrace those words, but this particular film wants us to remember that these forms of knowledge or ways of reading knowledge are valid, and the academy, whether we like it or not, unfortunately, has rendered them invisible and invalid. Finally, I also made this film because I wanted the film to serve as a sort of living, breathing, and moving archive. In Nigeria, a lot of people, even people that grew up in the 40s, unfortunately, don't even know about this movement. And a fun fact about it was the woman who led the movement, her name is Fumlayo Kuti. She is the mother of a very famous Afrobeat musician called Fela Kuti, who was very popular in the 70s and the 80s. And so we see there's a sort of lineage of resistance in their family. And I was also able to visit their family house, the Kuti Heritage Museum in Ogun State. And so all these encounters, all these familial encounters, engagement with personal archives, they really, really inspired the creation of this film. And I hope that you enjoy my own records. And it's called Record Found Here. So thank you for listening.